Get out the insurance cards, get out the copays. The office is open, my friends. Brought to you by drroto.com.
Hey there, everybody. It's Dr. Roto. Get out the insurance cards, get out the copay. The office is open, my friends. It's time for the Caught Looking podcast with my good friend Lou Landers. Lou, how's your baseball team doing? The Great Fantasy Baseball Invitational. Last time we spoke, you were numero uno.
It's not doing as hot, Doc. It's not doing as hot. I got into some pitching problems, and I'm still first in my league, but I think last time I checked, I was 15th or 16th in the overall.
You know, baseball is brutal. You know, you have a good – it's so funny. I was talking about this with a friend. If your team has 5 home runs and 10 RBIs, you're in first place. The next day, if they have 1 RBI and 1 run scored, you fall into third. So you almost have to look at it as, you know, totality of everything. On Sunday, are you better this Sunday than you were last Sunday?
Basically, that's as what it's at, and especially this early in the season still. I mean, I know we're near the end of May, but that's a third of the season. I think people forget that sometimes. It can still change so rapidly, so quickly. 2 bad starts or Jalen Beeks not being able to get saves in 2 appearances this week, all those types of things can affect things.
The Beeks will inherit my team. All right, here's a question. I am in 3rd place in labor, but I'm really close. I would be winning labor, and I'm not even joking, by 10 points if I had another closer, because I have Tanner Scott and Jalen Beeks, so you know where I am with closers.
Not good, basically, is what you're saying. Yeah.
Would you trade Julio Rodriguez for like Robert Suarez and Dalton Varsho? Like, do I just give up on a Julio to get saves? What's your thoughts on something like that?
You could do that, but I think you need different names there. Maybe Suarez is okay because he seems to be locked in there, but I think you need more than a Varsho. I think you still need a solid outfielder with that closer.
But what happens, because when I'm looking at the team, he doesn't have a lot. If I showed you this guy's team, he doesn't have a lot. So I feel like I'm forcing a trade when I don't want to be – I don't ever like making bad trades.
Forget him and forget his team. You have Julio Rodriguez. There's got to be at least 3 or 4 teams out there that would be interested in acquiring him.
Well, that's true, but I'm also look, people out there, I want you to listen to this. I look at other teams first before I make trade offers. I look at a team that has too many saves, that may want to get saves, who might need some speed and some power, right? So I'm looking for a match. I don't want to just offer up, a player to a team that doesn't need that, right? So sometimes then I'm looking at like 2 or 3 teams, but I don't see that perfect fit. I see a fit that maybe, I'm taking 2 lesser guys. But I guess my bigger question is, do I need to worry about the Mariners' offense?
Possibly. You might need to. I also don't like that Julio was moved down in the lineup recently, though, either. I mean, at some point you got to figure he's going to hit his stride. So maybe if I'm you, I wait for that to happen. Give him another 2 or 3 weeks. If he gets hot and starts being Julio, I think you can get whoever you want for him.
Or I can berate myself for not picking Bobby Witt like I should have.
Or that, yeah, because he's just been incredible. And you don't want to wait too long to start getting those saves. There's still lots of time to go up in that category. It's one of the easiest categories to go up in that and stolen bases.
But notice there haven't been any closers available on the free agency. I've been waiting. There hasn't been a guy. Jalen Beeks has been the closest to a guy, or Kirby Yates, but there hasn't been that spend all my money on a closer guy.
Absolutely. Yates and Neris have been probably the best 2 so far. And yeah, that's the problem is you're probably going to have to do it in a trade. But if you're going to be using a guy like Julio, you probably want to wait a little longer so that you're not selling him at his lowest point, which basically you'd be doing right now.
I know. All right, let's look at some fab here. There's a guy that I like. He pitches. His name is Cooper Criswell. Looks pretty interesting to me. Are you a fan?
I've been warming up more and more towards him. And you look, hasn't allowed more than 2 earned runs in a start. Only 1 time has he done that this season. Striking at just under a batter per inning, 34 Ks through 34 2/3 innings, sub-3 ERA, solid whip, all the things you like. Biggest thing here is if you're going to spend on him, you want to make sure he's going to be pitching. Well, Garrett Whitlock is going to have surgery.
Yeah.
Chris Well's going to be in that rotation moving forward. And guess what? Potential 2 starts next week. Expected to start in Camden against Baltimore. Not great on Monday, but balances out because he's supposed to have the Tigers over the weekend. So a 2-star pitcher. He is available in places. I'm down. I'm into it.
Okay. What about, here's a guy that's very interesting. People loved him at the beginning of the year. Now we hate him. But maybe we should love Hunter Brown again.
Yeah, I think you have to ignore the ratios. I think if you look at them, they're going to make you sick,
You
obviously.
mean the 1.78 ratio, Lou? Is that what you mean?
Or the 7.9, whatever his ERA is, yeah. you want to avoid him if you look at the ratios. But look past them for a moment, because lately, 4 outings, it's not a huge sample, allowed 2 earned runs or less 3 different times. And he's kind of looking like the pitcher that we're like, okay, let's draft Hunter Brown this season. He's got really good stuff, and he's on a good Astros team.
Yes.
Well, the Astros are playing good finally, too. So I think there's hope for the Astros. I think there's hope for Brown. I think you got to pull the trigger and add this guy if he's out there, because this is the type of guy that can give you a 3.5 ERA the rest of the way. And his early season numbers don't matter because it's on your roster as opposed to somebody else's.
Exactly my point. That's exactly what I was going to say. You're looking at those numbers and you're going, no, but they won't be on your team. They'll be on that other dude's team. That other dude is probably like in last place in ERA and WHIP and has no chance of winning your league now. Thanks a lot, Hunter Brown. So that is really a smart way to think about it. I'm looking here at the list of guys I have. There's a shortstop for the Giants who started to look pretty good. I had a Giants stack early this week, Lou. They put up 11 runs or something like that. I did pretty well in DFS that night. Marco Luciano. I like that name. Is he lucky? Is he lucky Luciano for fantasy baseball managers?
You know what? I think he is. And it's really interesting because sometimes there's players who seem like they've been around forever. And he's only 22 years old. So you're like, how's that possible? Well, he started playing pro ball at 17, Doc. Wow. He was a really, really young prospect, hot name coming up. He's only 22 now. There's plenty of room for growth. And he's been really good through his first 7 games. And he's been playing every single day. The Giants have said he's going to be playing every single day. This is a guy that you absolutely want to grab right now because, yes, he's young. Yes, he's unproven. But it's a guy that has been highly touted for so long. And we've kind of just been waiting. When is he going to get to the big leagues? Not just get there, but play every day. It's finally happened.
So let me ask you this question. Would I drop Ceddanne Rafaela for him?
I would make that move, yeah.
Even though Rafael has started to hit, he has actually put the bat on the ball recently, Lou.
Yeah, he's definitely been better. The Red Sox overall have been quite surprising so far, but I would still make that move. Is there anyone else who you could potentially drop?
Well, I'm just looking at there's similar players that Rafael is kind of, sometimes I like dropping an apple for an apple. But then sometimes I drop an apple for an orange. It all depends on my team. What about, there's a guy that I was on 2 weeks ago, and I put him on my lists because I knew he was coming up, but I didn't get him. Ji-Hwan Bae. Dude is going to be up this week. There's something about him where there's a little power, there's a little speed. Is he going to make a little impact on my team or more?
Probably just a little because there isn't that much power. It's fairly minimal, but you have to like that he does have speed. He's eligible at second, middle, and in the outfield, so you got to like that. He's probably going to play regularly because the second base production in Pittsburgh has been dreadful for about 6 to 8 weeks now. And look at what he's done in the minors. I'm not saying he's going to continue that or necessarily carry it over, but a 376 average and 484 on base percentage, nothing to sneeze at.
Did you see that James Wood left the game yesterday with lower body soreness?
You know what? You're breaking that news to me. I did not see that.
Oh, yes, I saw that. James Wood left the game with lower body soreness. Not sure what that means, Lou. Just throwing that out there.
Well, that's a little nerve-wracking, potentially. Or maybe he just needs a few days off and maybe he'll come back and the Nationals will say, okay, James, we're ready for you.
You mean get rid of guys like Joey Gallo and Eddie Rosario and guys who are just old and decrepit? And Joey Meneses?
Joey Gallo absolutely needs to go. I can't believe he still has a job in the big leagues, to be honest.
Yeah. I would get rid of everybody named Joey on the Nationals roster. Just if you're named Joey, you're out.
Yeah.
All right, what about your favorite team here, Lou? The New York Yankees. DJ LeMahieu could be back any second.
Yeah, he's supposed to come off next week. They say in the series against the Angels, so that's midweek. And I actually picked him up for $1 last week, Doc.
Nice.
And I think you can still get him for probably under $5 this week because he'll still be on the IL come Sunday. And you look at LeMahieu, obviously he's not the player he once was. And you don't know for sure what the Yankees are going to do with him in terms of the batting order. It's very possible he comes back and he's right up top batting the leadoff in front of Soto and Judge. Of course, Volpe has been so good in that spot. I wouldn't mess with it personally. So you may see LeMahieu bat 7th or 8th, and you'd think, okay, that's going to hurt his fantasy value. But if you watched any Yankees games this year, these guys are awesome, 1 through 9. If LeMahieu is batting 7th or 8th, he is going to come up with plenty of guys on base, and there's still plenty of value there as a first and or third baseman or corner guy. He'll probably get injured at some point again, but I would definitely look to add him. Anyone you can add as a regular player in a lineup that's playing this well, you need to do it.
All right, I want to throw out a guy. I got a guy for you, Lou. Are we interested in my man, Henry Davis Roto, who since May 16th has been on fire? On fire. In the last 7 days, 5 home runs and 10 RBIs, hitting .417. Yasmani Grandel's got a groin injury. Everybody who got rid of Henry, maybe we need to bring him back. Yay or nay?
If you can do it cheaply this week, then yes, I would be interested. Just keep in mind that he hit well in the minors last year. He hit well in the minors in 2021 and okay in 2022. And he's obviously doing well right now. But in the big leagues, he was terrible last year, and he was even worse this year. So I'm not sure it's necessarily going to translate the way we want it to. But certainly the situation has presented him a new chance because obviously there's not really a better option on this roster in Pittsburgh right now.
I think he's a great pickup. I think people are down on him. I think people are burying him. And you know what? The dude can hit, and he qualifies a catcher. How many catchers hit? But speaking of catchers, I kind of love this guy, Freddie Fermin. I always call him Felix Fermin. I don't know why, but Freddie Fermin. I like the dude, and he can hit a little bit. They don't play him enough. But if you're dying for a catcher, an Austin Wells or Fermin, are they interesting to you?
They both are. With Fermin specifically, obviously this is only for 2 catcher leagues. We're not talking about him as a top 12 or 15 catcher, obviously. But he definitely deserves consideration. Sal Perez DHs. He plays first base, and that does allow the Royals to get Fermin into the lineup to make an impact. And last season, solid 281, 9 homers, 32 ribbies, 70 games. Solid production this season, 26 games, only 1 home run, but 299 average, 349 OBP. And the Royals, they're a good team. They're actually a very good team right now. And they have a good lineup. That's going to add value to Fermin. It's going to allow him to be someone that can help you 100% if you're looking for that second catcher. So, yeah, I like him a lot. I like him more than Austin Wells, actually.
I saw Austin Wells jack a home run this spring, Lou. The ball's still going off Bailey Ober. But I like Fermin because he puts the ball in play. And sometimes for my second catcher, if I get 5 home runs, 40 RBIs, and the dude hits 280, I'm literally thrilled because he's not killing me.
Absolutely. And obviously Fermin has potential playing time issues, but so does Wells, especially because Trevino's actually been really good for the Yankees. That's another guy I would look at, actually, because he's playing enough and he's been hitting very well, looking a lot more like he did in 2022. So I like Fermin more than Wells because I think he actually has a clearer path to playing time because Trevino has been so good for the Yankees.
Let me ask you about a guy who I have in too many leagues that, I'm thinking about cutting. Do I cut Bo Naylor or do I just have to hold Bo?
I think you have to hold. I have no actual shares in a redraft, only in Dynasty. So
Would
obviously
you
I'm
like
not
some of
cutting
mine? I
there.
can give you a couple of shares. You can just have them.
Yeah. I think you have to hold because you know that there's big time power. And I really, even though we've just mentioned some guys, I really don't know if those guys are an upgrade to Naylor. They would be in terms of batting average, but I'm not sure they're an upgrade in anything else. So,
Would you cut Bo Naylor for Henry Davis?
no.
Trying to figure out a way to get Henry Davis on my team. All right. I'll have to let you know about that this weekend. But I think I agree with you. I hold Bo Naylor, and here's why. If I cut him, that next week you know he's hitting 3 home runs.
Yeah.
You know
That's very possible. This is a guy that I think he has, 3 or 4 homers right now. I still think he gets to 20 plus.
Right. So once again, it's like Hunter Brown. If I give up on the guy now, it's bad.
Oh, I would love for someone to drop him in a league because I drafted Gary Sanchez and stupidly dropped him too quickly. And I drafted Wilson Contreras. Luckily, I was able to pick up Herrera. But right now, I'm trying out Herrera and Corey Lee in a league. And both have been pretty good.
I like Corey Lee.
Both have been pretty good. But if Naylor popped up on the wire, I'd probably consider dropping one of those guys for Naylor because I think I'm going to have a really solid stretch from him.
I know, and that's why I don't want to do it. All right, let's take a look at tonight in DFS, Lou. It's a very, very busy slate.
It is. Doc, I don't think I've ever seen a slate, honestly, in all the years of playing and doing this. I don't think I've ever seen a slate where there's 5 stacks that I like. 5 stacks that I like.
Let's just talk about a stack that I'm going to start with here. I can't imagine that I'm not looking at Philadelphia against Ty. Can we just call him? We won't even call him Block. We'll just call him.
Honestly, I'd be looking at Philadelphia against anyone in course. So, yeah.
So how do we get Philadelphia cheaply?
Well, you could certainly use Johan Rojas and then Mundo Sosa as 2 of your 5 players because they're 3,600 and 38 respectively. That'll certainly help, but the other guys are still going to be crazy expensive.
Well, did you see the other night? Alex Bohm was $5,600.
He's over 6,000 tonight.
Oh man! So
I mean, he's having a really good season.
He is, but I'm looking.
He loves to hit lefties, but still,
he does. So, do I go with a Bohm, Castellanos, Sosa, Rojas stack? That's vile.
You could. Do you know that there's only 5 players priced ahead of Bohm tonight, and one of them is his teammate Bryce Harper. Only Ohtani, Soto, Tucker, and Judge are more expensive than Alec Bohm right now.
Do I fade Bohm tonight?
You could fade Bohm tonight. You could go with, like you said, a guy like a Castellanos who's going to be less owned than Bohm, and he's a lot less money. So that's something. See, that's the thing is when you are playing a stack that you know is going to be super, super popular, you can still play that stack, but I think you have to be different within your stack.
Right.
So you're going to see people, I want Real Muto, I want Harper, I want Bohm, and I want Schwarber. Well, what if you don't go Real Muto, Bohm, or Schwarber, and you only go Harper from that group and then look at the other players?
And that's where my brain was. My brain was going Sosa, Rojas, Castellanos, but give me some of the other stacks that you are liking tonight.
So the Astros have Stripling.
Yep.
Like it. Dodgers in Cincinnati, you have to like that. The Orioles, Chris Flexen, you got to like that. The Cubs, they're not my favorite of this group, but they have Miles Mikolas. So, I mean, those are all stacks I really like, and the Cubs are pretty affordable too. They're the one that's affordable. The Orioles are actually the least affordable. If you look at it, there's no one who's really cheap other than maybe Jorge Mateo. The Astros do offer some cheap guys. I don't know if Loperfido will play. He hasn't been playing as much, but he's sub 3,000. Singleton's mid 3,000. Yainer Diaz 3,800. So you can find some cheap Astros. With the Cubs, PCA cheap, Talkman cheap, Dodgers, Pajes, and Hayward are pretty cheap. So you can find some cheap options here, but with the Orioles, you can't.
Is Atlanta on the main slate? I didn't see.
Atlanta. Why do I feel like they are not?
I'm
No,
wishing that they were.
they are not on the main slate.
Yeah, that's a problem. Because they have that guy Vines pitching who stinks.
Yeah, well, it's not really a problem because I don't know how I would wrap my head around 6 stacks I like. Five's enough.
So I'm just trying to see here. Give me a second. Just trying to like figure out how to get the stack in. But man, this is brutal.
It's brutal too because there's 3 amazing pitchers on this slate, and 2 of them, well, really all 3 of them have ridiculously good matchups too. Imanaga is amazing. St. Louis. Burns, amazing. Chicago. Gallen is very good. He gets Miami. So you look at those 3 guys. How do you not take one? But if you do that,
All
you're
right, so
spending
let's
so much
talk
money.
about that for a second. Is Braxton Garrett worth a shot? Because when he's good, he's amazing.
If I'm taking shots, I'd probably rather take the Scott. The shot. I was going to say the Scott on Scott. The shot on a guy like Christian Scott, who had a bad outing, so now his price has gone down. I think I like Verlander as well in the mid 8,000s. And how can you not like Cutter Crawford, sub 9,000?
I
So
agree.
there
I
are
agree with the
3
Verlander one a lot. I like
Also,
Verlander.
Kyle Harrison is another interesting option potentially.
Yeah, but you just told me to take Christian Scott.
Yeah. Well, you're not going to use both. At least in the same lineup, you're not going to. You know what else, Doc? I know it's going to sound absolutely insane, but if you're playing in a tournament, there's a guy out there who pitches for the Angels who looks like his numbers are terrible, but he's been pretty good in 3 of his past 4 starts. And Patrick Sandoval,
yeah. See,
3 of his past 4 starts, he's been very good.
I don't like stacking. I don't like pitching against the Guardians because they put the bat on the ball.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to do. You're going to laugh. Don't laugh at me. I'm going to do a Verlander Braxton Garrett.
Okay.
Because when Braxton Garrett, if he goes 6 innings and he gets 9 strikeouts and lets up 1 hit, even if he doesn't get the win, I'm going to see that's a lot of points.
Well, let me ask you this. How much faith do you have in the Rockies lineup?
Oh, to put Christopher Sanchez?
Yeah.
I love me some Christopher Sanchez.
7,200. He saves you a good amount of money as an SP2, and he probably won't be highly owned.
The ownership is going to be very high.
On him in Coors? I don't think so.
I think the ownership on him could get up to double digits, where I think Braxton Garrett I can get for like 3%.
That is true. The ownership on Garrett is definitely going to be less, but the production from Garrett could also be a hell of a lot less.
No, that's true. Now I got to figure. No, I'm going to throw out something crazy. Just stay with me here. Could James Paxton be a nightmare tonight?
He could be. It all really depends on if he brings his command to the mound or not. When he's not walking 1,000 guys, he's pretty good.
Right. But
lately he hasn't been walking.
The Reds hit well against lefties.
They do, and more importantly, his last game was against the Reds. So they're seeing him back-to-back starts. It kind of scares me a little.
So is this a game where I try to get a little maybe Tyler Stevenson, maybe a little Fairchild?
You could. Certainly. Yeah, you could.
Candyman.
Fairchild for sure. I mean, he hits versus lefties, and he's super cheap. Candelario would be okay.
Yeah, I like it. But I think, you're right. You're going to have to – I think the key to tonight – this is a very hard slate. This really is a brutal slate, and I hate that. Do you ever know when you play on FanDuel or DraftKings and they have those tournaments where it's the 444 and it's always a night like tonight that you play for all that money?
Yeah, of course.
This feels like a night where you're going to need to have 150 lineups because you're going to want some Astros, you're going to want some Phillies, you're going to want some Cubs, you're going to want some Dodgers, and then you got to sprinkle in other guys randomly. This feels very hard to win tonight.
Yeah, you're going to have to just absolutely hit on everything. I think the biggest thing, honestly, is selecting the right pitchers because there's so many good ones right now. And the problem is going to be who is going to give you the best bang for your buck. And if you don't hit on the right two pitchers, it doesn't matter how good your stack is going to do on a night like this because there's such great options.
No, it's totally true. I mean, there's this may be the hardest slate of the year. So give me the lock, Lou. Before we get out of here, I want Lou's lock it in.
Lou's lock. Oof. There's just so many options, Doc. I have a really good feeling about Yainer Diaz tonight, the catcher, for just 3,800. I feel like he's just going to have a big night.
Interesting. All right, I like where you're going there. I do. I like it. I'm going to say that this is not a James Paxton night. And I'm going to go with a little Jonathan India.
Wow. Okay. See, that is really bold. Like mine was a little bold because who's thinking of a catcher as their lock? But Jonathan India, man, I mean, he has just been terrible.
Or Tyler Stevenson, one of those two. I'm going to throw a red in there, and it's going to be a red in the top four of the lineup. Who's going to see
India? India could hit 2 home runs tonight. It's possible. He only has 2 on the year, but he could do it. You remember when Martini hit 2 home runs and I made the joke, oh, yeah, well, he hit 2 home runs, so probably hit 1 or 2 more all year long?
I played him the opening day.
Yeah, you did. But what has he done since?
Don't worry about that.
How many home runs does he have since?
Don't worry about that.
He has 2 since then.
Who was the player that on our first podcast, was it Teoscar Hernandez that I said was going to jack 2 out?
Teoscar and JD Davis, and you hit on both of them.
That was a good night.
Yeah.
Jonathan India is hitting 1, and Nick Castellanos is hitting 1, Lou. Lock it in.
All right. Beautiful. Love it.
All right. Appreciate you. And by the way, you can hear Lou on Sunday morning on Sirius XM Fantasy Sports Radio with me. It'll be on 10:30 a.m. Eastern, breaking down more FAB and more DFS so you can win. But right now it's time to put away the insurance cards, put away the copay. The office is closed, my friends. For Lou, this is Dr. Roto saying be well and take care.
Thanks for stopping by the office. Get your fantasy prescription by subscribing to the channel and checking out drroto.com. And until the next visit, be well and take care.